Now, when you first start to learn a programming language, it's critical that you develop a solid understanding of the foundational concepts, like data types and variables. These basic concepts are critical to understanding how computer programs work and also make it easier for you to adopt programming languages in the future. Before we jump in, I encourage you to open up Jupyter Notebook and create a new Python 3 notebook. Now, you can name the notebook file whatever you want, but going forward, I recommend that you start each new module by creating a new Jupyter Notebook to follow along with our coding examples and also to make notes using Markdown. The first concept we'll talk about is code comments. So code comments, or simply comments, are used to document and or explain the code that you have written. Comments are especially important when you're collaborating with other people on code. For example, large-scale software development project teams can potentially have hundreds of different programmers and engineers working on the same code base. In that scenario, comments are essential tools for collaborating and outlining the logic behind different code statements. The ability to write code comments exists in nearly every programming language, and for good reason. So to write comments in Python, we're going to use a hashtag symbol, or what you might refer to as the pound symbol, to write single-line comments, and you can also use a set of triple quotations for multi-line comments. Now, single-line comments are what is most common. So to do that, we're just going to write hashtag this is a comment. And you can write code comments above your code or alongside your code. So for example, if you have a print statement that says hello, then you can put a comment right next to that. This is a print statement. And recall that in Jupyter Notebook, if you want to run some code, you can hit Shift Enter, or you can also click the run here, and that will print out this. Now, what you will see also is that notice that the comments are not actually produced, they don't produce any output. So what comments, the way they work is that the compiler, or in this case the interpreter, actually just ignores them. And so that pound sign, or that hashtag, tells the interpreter anything that follows this sign, ignore it. Now, another important concept to understand is data types, and they also exist in nearly every programming language. And there are several built-in data types within Python, but most commonly in Python, the data types that we use are going to be integers, floats, booleans, and strings. So let's take a look at a few examples here. So if we want to create some integers, let's start by just making a comment here. Let's say the following are examples of integers, and we're just going to use print statements to illustrate this. So if I say, well, I want to print out the value 5, well, that's actually an integer. And I can check the type of an integer using what's called type checking. So for type checking, we use the method type, and this is a method that we want to use anytime that we're not really sure what the data type is for a particular value. So for example, if I give the value 11 and run that, it's going to tell me this in fact is an integer. Now if we want to create some other data types, let's try floats. So we'll say the following are examples of floats. And floats are what you might refer to as real numbers, in that they are numbers that can contain, they're not whole numbers necessarily, they can contain decimals. So for example, if I give the value here print 15.682 and I run that, it's going to print out that value, but that is actually, if we want to check the type, 15.682, it will tell us that is a float. Now keep in mind, if we give a decimal value, even if it's a 0, it will resolve to being a float. So if we say 6.0, then it tells me that is also a float. We also have two other data types we commonly use, Boolean and strings, and a Boolean can have the value of either true or false. So we'll say the following are examples of Booleans, and they can either have a value of true or false, or you can also think about that as on or off, because Boolean variables are often used to flag something as true or false, or on or off, or yes or no. So for example, if we say print true, it's going to print out true. If we want to check the value of that, we can say type true, and we can also check type false, and it's going to tell us both of those are Boolean values. Now lastly, we have string values, which what distinguishes something as a string is it's a collection of characters that can be letters and or digits, but what's important to note is that a string is essentially just text. So if you have digits, that is numbers in a string form, that's not something that we're going to be able to do arithmetic against. And the way that we illustrate a string here is it is a value that goes within either a double quote or a single quote. So we can say print, and then we'll say this is a string. We can run that and then it prints it out. If we want to check the type here of something, so we can say test, it's going to tell us that is a string.